Welcome to FOB TV, the future of business. I'm your host, Kevin Benedict, and I want to just thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us today. I'm really excited about our guest. Our guest is Deepak Seth. Deepak has been a passionate advocate for innovation and adoption of cloud solutions and AI and machine learning and API microservers and augmented reality, virtual reality, predictive analytics, and you name it. And he's worked at all kinds of Fortune 500 companies. He brings a wealth of expertise and knowledge to the show today. And I'm just excited to kind of dive in and talk about what he sees from his perspective. Now, today in your day job, Deepak, you're working with trading platforms and all kinds of stuff, aren't you?
Yes, I am. But first of all, Kevin, that was quite a welcome. Now I look at myself in a new light, hearing all the great words you had to say about me. But yeah, I'm excited to be part of your show, and this is and looking forward to the conversation. Yeah, means AI more than using it at work. I'm a more passionate researcher and trying to figure things out where generative AI would go. Interestingly enough, a couple of years ago, I have been working for many years now, and when I saw the AI and ML bus coming down the road, I said I need to go back to school. So a couple of years ago, I went back and did some postgraduate qualifications in AI and machine learning. So I'm not as much of a total know nothing kind of expert. I have been around the block and honed my skills. Yep.
Ah, that's awesome. So where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling from Fort Worth, Texas. This has been my home for the last 4 or 5 years. Before that, had spent a lot of time in cold Rochester, New York. From there, moved to hot Fort Worth, Texas, and we have a recent bout of thunderstorms, but weather is looking great outside today.
That's awesome. So let me just ask you, because this is a question that comes up with everybody that I meet on the street, it seems like. When did you first start using ChatGPT or the equivalent of that? And what were your first impressions after you dove in and started playing with it?
As soon as I saw the announcement for both Bard and ChatGPT, means I hopped onto it. I signed up, and then they were releasing the access in a phased way. So yeah, as soon as it came out, asked some questions, saw what kind of answers it gives, and all the fun stuff. I'm sure some of that will come up as the discussion progresses. Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Likewise, I started researching, especially when we got into ChatGPT version 4, and started looking at different trends in different technologies, and then asking it to look at how the combination of those two separate trends and technologies, what would be the impact of both those trends colliding? And then that's where I really started getting fascinating information. When you ask it to compare and contrast and integrate, and then look ahead into the future, how those things might work together, the information, I'm a veteran futurist, and so I'm looking at it with a very critical eye. But boy, it's impressive.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. So one of the first things which I did, research on what GPT is, what LLMs are, try to figure them out. But interestingly, even as it is a great tool, and you said you're trying to bring two different things together and see where to go with them, I decided to look back at the past with them. So I have done a lot of writing in the past. I was on the editorial board of the Rochester newspaper, and so what I did was, hey, ChatGPT or Bard. Deepak Seth used to be a editorial board contributor for this newspaper in the 2000s. What do you know about his work, or can you tell me something about his work? Now, interestingly or scaringly, that was my first introduction to hallucinations. Now, because both of them gave me great answers, and when I was reading them, I said, "Wow, this doesn't sound like me." It actually gave me a list of articles with dates when they were published, and I said, when did I write about those things? These topics don't seem to be topics which I was writing about. And then one of them also said, Deepak said, means it gave schools which I had never gone to. It told me about places which I had never visited. And one of them also said I was dead and I'm well remembered. So, so
Oh boy.
I write about that in my if you see the backdrop, I am listed in my newsletter,
Yeah.
AI Demystified, and among in one of the editions there I speak about these hallucinations. So those in the audience who are not aware, means hallucinations is the tendency of these large language models to often, you can say, spin a tall tale. Or tell some lies. When you look at these large language models, as ChatGPT and Bard AI are called, what they are essentially doing is, based on the text which is presented to them and based on the data which they have been trained on, which is like huge billions and trillions of data elements, they try to make up or predict what the next word should be, and they string them together and present them in an excellent format. But now, as they are spinning the tales, they many times they, based on the information they pick, they may not exactly be giving the correct answer. So the answer will sound nice, but it may not be factually correct. And both all these applications are now moving towards providing many more linkages to the data which is being used to create the output, so that one can go back and verify. But this is one thing which users of these applications need to be very mindful of.
So Deepak, the two things that I started, I think on the very first day I started doing with ChatGPT 4, and I have an account with Bard too, but I started asking about it, asking ChatGPT about itself. How does it feel? How does it think? Where is its origin? All these kinds of things, trying to understand, how it was making sense of the world. And of course, it was silly because a lot of the answers are silly, and a lot of the answers came back, like, I'm ChatGPT and I really don't have an answer for you. But a lot of hallucinations around my CV as well. It had me going to all kinds of graduate programs at very highly esteemed educational institutions, which I have not put a foot on in my life. So, I graduated from Portland State University, and it was having me at Stanford.
Awesome. And the fun part is what I get scared about is people have already, I see that in organizational settings, people are sharing information in their deck saying ChatGPT says, and they are presenting it as if if ChatGPT is saying that, it must be correct, kind of.
Oh man,
that's so funny.
But I think that's why professionals like you and I, we really need to read the results of some of those, especially if we're using it for research that we're going to then supplement our own research and writing with. We need to look at it with a critical eye and say, does this pass the sounds right, as a first step, and then really follow through if it's giving you data points. But I have found on the kind of the bigger topics of the world, it has a better grasp because it sees a lot more content. It's able to process a lot. It's when you get very specific about very niche that it just may not have a lot of information to give you an answer on, even though it may try. But let me just move on here and ask you, how are you using these large language models yourself, these generative AI platforms? What are you using it for today, and how often do you use it, Deepak?
From a personal level, I'm researching it. I'm using it to supplement some of the work which I do. As you said, means getting answers about questions, framing things properly, trying to test its limits or boundaries, so that when decisions are taken about it, I am able to, a person who can make good decisions about it. Also, interacting with other individuals. ChatGPT was released, and within like 3-4 days, it had 1 million users. It's the fastest count to 1 million users ever, kind of thing. But that's like it's created the buzz and the excitement, but when it has to be translated in terms of what needs to get done from a large enterprise perspective, a lot of things need to happen. So I and others means we are working in that space, trying to figure out how does it become an effective tool for the large enterprise.
Wow, that's amazing. So you work for large organizations, you spend a lot of time at large organizations. Where do you think you're going to start seeing an impact?
So one thing is one of the very basic uses could be just a productivity enhancer for all employees kind of thing. So anybody who's researching anything, if they have access to it kind of thing, they can get better at what they do. So this would happen when this gets embedded in Microsoft Office and other places, and then automatically it would start into play. But the other biggest places where I think it would start playing a role would be around interaction with the customers kind of thing. So call centers, anything which does research and presents information to the clients. A use case which I'm coming across in another sector is around, you have got people who go to the client side to say repair equipment. Now they have to refer to many different manuals kind of thing, and then you have to figure answers out. This would be easily able to provide that information in a very concise sort of way about what needs to be done. Legal briefs, creating the first drafts of anything, this would become a handy tool.
Just like people use YouTube to learn how to do all kinds of, gardening and cooking and mechanical stuff. Matter of fact, even yesterday was asking it on a home maintenance issue. I went to ChatGPT and said, what kind of professionals work on these kind of problems? Because I don't even know what to search on Google. And it had to do with, drain from your rain gutters and who would working on the drainage of your yard. Is that a landscaper? Is that a plumber? Is that, who does that? And it was giving me very solid information, and it gave me all the different various points to think about. It gave me a list of the kinds of questions to ask. And I left going, oh, that is so useful. Because it helps me sound educated when I'm talking to contractors. I can see what the issues are because ChatGPT showed me these are the things to consider. So on a personal level, but on business, Deepak, man, I use it 10, 15 times a day. Unless I'm in a deep article, and then I'll use it, 50 times in a day, going in and just researching both historical and future stuff.
From an organizational perspective, there's a caveat to that also. Most companies have restricted access to these tools on office equipment because they are not exactly sure of all the prompts or all the information which people will share as questions to the for these applications, how they would be used by companies like OpenAI or Google. And I think if I remember correctly, just a couple of days, a news had popped up that Google has stopped its own employees from using Bard or something like that. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that up again. But as you said, it's emerging. The guardrails around this need to be established at an enterprise level. So all that's still being figured out.
So let's talk about that large enterprise concern. What they're concerned about, if I got this right, if I understand this right, is they don't want their sales guys like entering all their client information into Bard or ChatGPT and then asking it to rewrite their proposals in a better format. Because then that information becomes part of the large language model, and that information is then used to help educate the large language models for everyone. And it's confidential information. Is that the primary concern?
It's the confidential information you are losing. I mean, it's your secret sauce, competitive advantage will get eroded. And I was talking with some friends, and an interesting thing came up, which is relevant from a futurist perspective, is like right now the LLM has been built on historical data, like from up till 2 years ago. So they went to Reddit, they went to Quora, they went to Wikipedia, means all the information in the public domain, and that forms the corpus on which this large language models are built. Now, in the future, as these large language models keep on getting used increasingly, they are creating their own content. So after a period of time, most of the content which is available on public domain will be that which is created by these LLMs. So will they be? So it's like a snake eating its own tail kind of thing. Like, would they be? What happens then? Kind of scenario. Like how do they get better when 90% of what they are being built upon is what they themselves have created? So
that is interesting, especially from the perspective of replicating biases and things like that. Because if the system is already biased and then it's educating itself again on its biased information, that's not good. Now, yesterday, for the first time, I was really listening to this podcast that was talking about the use of like distributed ledger technology or blockchain technology that would box in corporate information that's confidential, but let their own internal large language models use that to provide internal information. But since it knows where it was accessing that information, it knows that information cannot be used in external environments. So it's like boxing in and then authenticating who owns that, and then putting guardrails around when that can be used. The idea is to allow employees to take advantage of all the benefits you get from these large language models and generative AI without the concern that confidential information gets passed out to the public spaces.
Yeah,
so that's a fascinating new area. For me, it's new.
So yeah, means that's exactly right. That's where like a lot of work is going now. I would say is like in the intermediary space, which is the space between the large language models and the way large enterprises and others would use it. And there are 2 or 3 dimensions to it. So one we spoke about was the whole concern about privacy and the data being leveraged and being mined and all that kind of stuff. Others are around like the basic operability kind of thing also, because so the LLMs are huge. They have been trained on vast amount of data, so they have scaled very well. They work very well. Framing of sentences, all that means they are really, really good at that. But specific organizations have specific bounds in which they want to operate. So if like I'm a pizza delivery company, I don't care about what's happening in the space sector or in the car industry or whatever. So what I want is like when my employees use the large language model, there should be something which bounds it. Even if I'm using the core LLM, but the way my prompts travel to the LLM and then results come back to me, they are bound in the pizza delivery construct. So it could be pizza delivery construct, it could be automobile industry construct, it could be pharma industry construct, because each industry has their own constructs. And I see several players coming into play in those in that space per se.
Generative AI has opened up my inner artist. Now, I know many artists out there and many friends of mine that are artists have a lot of concerns about, how's this going to impact not only our hobbies, but our profession as graphical people and artists. So I think those are legitimate concerns because there is change. So it's worth asking all those what if questions and what now questions. But I was not an artist, and now I feel like I can be an artist. And so I wonder if there's tens of millions of new artists that are now blossoming because of the ability to use things like DALL-E and Midjourney and all those things.
I played with DALL-E and Midjourney. Yeah, so they fascinating indeed. Means it's saying, okay, this is the occasion, and I need a picture in this style, okay, make it in Dali style, make it in Rembrandt style, make it in Da Vinci style, and it will an impressionist, and it will do it. But again, that brings up interesting questions around copyright and all that kind of stuff, because it is using art which has been created by others to create new art. Now, the original people who created that art, how do they get compensated for it? Earlier on, not as part of this particular newsletter of mine, I had written about this thing about like every one of us is creating digital exhaust. Just by the way we do things, we are leaving this, or you can call them breadcrumbs, or I called it digital exhaust. And companies are leveraging it to build stuff. Now, should we be paid for it? What could be the model by which individuals get paid for what is being used about them? So you visited 10 stores today. That information is available. Some company is using it to make their offering better. Should you be compensated for it or not? And if maybe it is in terms of free usage of their site, maybe actually everybody gets paid a cent or a micro cent for every time their information is used. And that becomes what is like the universal basic income. Everybody's getting an income just because they are using the internet or whatever. So in the world of generative AI would bring a new spin to it.
That's interesting. I heard somebody the other day discussing this issue about using artist material to train, that they're not producing it. I mean, they're being taught by it. So it's almost like there needs to be a fee if they choose to use your art to train their own large language models. So if they use your art to train, there needs to be a teaching fee there, doesn't there? Yeah, I can see the logic.
Yeah, and that could be even for like, so I've written a lot, you have written a lot. That is being, if that is being mined to be used by it, maybe we did it for the joy of writing, but there are others for whom it's a living. So it means how do they get compensated? It's interesting.
Yes, it is. So the music, our opening music on this vlog, if you would, is generated by AI.
Awesome.
So I went to one of the music generation sites that's using AI, and you enter a bunch of English language information in there, and it gives you different styles, and you can tweak it from there. Anyway, the opening and closing music of this particular interview is all based on AI. The presentation I gave yesterday to many hundreds of supply chain experts, much of my presentation was generated with generative AI. The imagery, because I can, no matter what I'm talking about, I generally can be effective enough with English language to create an image that very clearly depicts the ideas that I'm trying to make on a particular slide. So I find that phenomenal.
So this may be a good point to remind your viewers, that Deepak Seth and Kevin Benedict here are real. These are not our AI avatars. We are talking in real time. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
We might be more interesting if we were artificial, but hey, not organic. So, hey, so let me ask you this, Deepak. What kind of applications have you seen out there, and maybe applications and even startup companies that you think are most interesting out there in this space?
Yeah, so a couple of things pop in my head. Like one interesting, so we are both that age where we have, I'm sure you and I and we've had colonoscopies, and it's not the most exciting experience to go through, and it's not an exciting experience for the GI practitioner who does it. Also means that he has to there are multiple devices which they need to manage. And I came across this company. What they were doing is it combines robotics and AI, moving colonoscopy and endoscopy in general to a robotic and AI driven space. So the robotic probe gets inserted, and then the robots are doing their action of moving it forward, and the images and all, they are being analyzed through AI to detect if there are any anomalies. And the surgeon actually would have just a iPad kind of device with them, on which they will make decisions. Okay, polyp, snip, not snip, or whatever, means do this, do that kind of thing. And so the intent, the game plan behind all this is a single surgeon can then maybe a nurse practitioner or somebody else can do the process, be on site, and the single doctor can manage multiple operations going on. So I found that fascinating. They have raised quite some bit of money, and they're moving ahead with it.
I can imagine the utility of that.
This is in terms of real value add.
No, I understand. I mean, the use of imagery is one of those really powerful use cases for the technology today, and then creating the digital twin so that you can have real incredibly precise robotic interaction. So absolutely. So that's a powerful one. Even though my mind has lots of jokes, I'll save those for another day.
Yeah, we'll come to that another day. Another interesting ones I have seen lot. Means I spoke about, we briefly brought up the thing about that intermediary layer between. So one is like lot of applications are popping up around that kind of thing. So a travel related one would be something about, okay, just enter your destination, number of days, and it will spew out an itinerary and things, a list of things to do kind of thing. I tried out one of those for a place I was visiting, and that it was a place I had already been there. So I just wanted to see how good they are with planning the distances, and do this, can do that next kind of thing. They're pretty good, and all based on ChatGPT and other things. And from a large organization perspective, again, I see consulting companies quickly make the pivot to be the trusted advisors and mentors in that space as companies try to figure things out. Many big companies had gone whole hog, consulting companies had gone whole hog into metaverse. And now they have done a smart pivot and saying, hey, billions of dollars investment into ChatGPT, into AI, generative AI stuff. So a lot of exciting stuff going on there too.
Oh, absolutely. So Deepak, what's your position on, is AI the greatest thing humanity has ever been able to create and is going to be overall a positive force and have a positive impact on the future of humanity, or is this an existential threat? Where do you fall on that question?
Yeah, means I shared some of my thoughts earlier on that. Interestingly, one thing which I do on a daily basis is like share a daily quote, and I call on LinkedIn, I called it Deepak's Daily Quote. And interestingly, which is I pick a quote from some person from the past and share it with my followers. Interestingly, the one which popped up yesterday was from the economist Herbert Simon, and he spoke about, and I just paraphrase it, technology has no morals per se. What technology does is it enhances the ways of we think about things and the way we do things. And whether we use it for good people will use it for good things, bad people will use it for bad things kind of thing. So similarly, AI, I think, means it is just in the long list of technologies which has emerged over the ages. It is just one more. In the right hands, it will do great things. In the wrong hands, it will do wrong things. But we'll figure out a way so that it stays within the bounds of what is right and what is wrong. And is it the greatest thing ever? No, human potential is immense. We'll be coming up with something. Something might be just across the horizon.
But I think history is filled full of examples of very dangerous materials that humans create that they keep very tightly regulated. Whether it may be lab-grown pathogens or heavy weapons, which you just never want to have laying around in civilian places because of, they're just far too dangerous. Just because we have a nuclear weapon doesn't mean you want to leave it on the street corner. So is this an example where this is something very powerful and it can have incredibly positive impacts, but you need to keep a close regulatory environment around that? What's your thoughts on that?
So a great question, Kevin. And yeah, that's something which I think about a lot, and all of us who work in this space are thinking about a lot. But I will be guided by historical precedent, so as to say, like, how have humans reacted to technological evolution in the past, and how the government controls and regulations have come into those spaces as well. So just pick an example. Let's pick aviation. Now, the planes were built, planes started flying, accidents started happening, and then we said, you know what? We need an air traffic controller to get things right. Automobiles, cars flying back and forth all across whatever highways were built and at intersections crashing into each other. Okay, we need traffic lights, and the traffic lights came into being. Nuclear power, same way. Nuclear power was built. Even at the time when nuclear energy was being researched, people knew it could have very, very dangerous effects, kind of thing, and means couple of times it has been used also in a way which caused immense destruction. But ultimately means nations and societies decided that this is a technology which needed to be bounded. So I'm already and all these things it's like the will of the people or the democratic processes, the interaction of nations, and those boundaries and guardrails start getting emerging. So we see some of the same thing happening in the AI space also. European, maybe the Europeans have taken a lead on this and some regulations have emerged. Maybe they will go too much on the side of control. US may come up with a different framework, and then some international organization may be created which says International Organization of AI, blah, 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 and it will set up some global standards related to that. So that's the way it has happened with every technology. And I'm sure radio communications, there are international organizations which govern how frequencies are used and all that kind of thing. So something similar will emerge here also. And it's needed. Yeah, it is needed. It is needed for any technology. It is needed, and it will be needed for this one also.
The question that I really have on that notion, though, is if we look at historical precedents, oftentimes the pace of change was slow enough where people could sit back, read about it, study it, do research, think about it, come up with some possible answers, and then over time create the regulatory environment that works. Now, it seems like the pace of change in a digital world is so incredibly fast that whenever a new issue comes up, it might take 5 years for a government agency to be able to understand it enough to try to put together a reasonable, policy around it. But by then, we're 18 generations ahead. So how do we do that in this world when change is accelerating so rapidly?
Yeah, but the flip side of it, okay, let's ban it for 6 months. Like I don't know where it gets, because who knows? It is just like the people who say that, okay, let's put a moratorium for 6 months. It's just because they had not got on the bus at the right time, and now they want that 6 months time to catch up. And companies or people talk about moratoriums. Is it coming out of the goodness of their heart, or is it coming out of that side of their brain saying, you know what, I need to catch up. I didn't get this. Now let me get my act together and make my billions off it, kind of thing. So some of it, like in several other sectors, I think a lot of the regulation came from within the industry itself. Maybe those kind of conversations would need to happen. What way, shape, or form they will take means I haven't wrapped my head around that yet.
So I've been writing articles about the friction points between human time and digital time and even future time. And what I mean by that is, you can have an AI system that can think so rapidly, can process so much information, can consider things, write things all within seconds. And humans' brains are on a totally different cadence. It's on a circadian rhythm, 24 hours a day. We need food, we need sleep, we need work, we need rest and downtime. This is an example to me where if you ask AI to fix this problem, it would spit out an answer in 3 seconds. But for humans to think through this might take years. And that intersection between human thinking and the need for human contemplation and robotics and AI is going to be a fascinating intersection point to watch going forward. To wrap up our call today, though, Deepak, I'm going to ask you to put on your futurist hat. Where do you see AI going in the next 5 to 10 years? What will be different? If you and I get back here 5 years from now, how will the world be different?
Okay, great question. And I'll break it down into like three time frames. So immediate short term, and I think I spoke about it also, means I'm seeing the rise of the intermediaries who will be creating the context and will be consultants or creating the prompt architecture to support enterprises getting into climbing onto this bandwagon. Large enterprises will be adopting AI. In the medium term, I think we'll have more of this government regulation space, some more of these traffic lights and guardrails kind of things emerge. Also, some of the questions related to equity, we didn't cover that point yet, because is this just a first world thing? What's happening? The news is still full of hunger and famine in many parts of the world. Like, what role is AI going to play in addressing those basic human problems? Does it have a role to play there? And how instead of being just a top of pyramid thing, it also becomes a bottom of the pyramid thing also? And in the long term, extremely long term, and I'm looking beyond where our headlights go. We have already starting to see things about AI enhanced humans kind of thing. We are seeing about Neuralink and all those kind of stuff where AI or some kind of implants are helping humans who have lost power in their limbs to do certain things and all that kind of thing. But I'm thinking that maybe it will go beyond that to human augmented AI. Our brains, we are using so much less of our brain potential. Maybe the answer lies is there's some kind of new technologies will emerge where this unutilized potential of the human brain in conjunction with AI is able to do even bigger and better things. Now, a lot of your brain is idle right now, and my brain is also idle right now. And if that processing power could be used to do something, even as we are talking here, means that would be phenomenal indeed. So
do I understand that concept being like the Napster of human brains in a peer-to-peer network?
Could be, like, who knows, means what way, shape, or form it would take, means humans have attempted that on their computers, unutilized computing power. Okay, let's use it for search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Keep your laptop on, download that software and all that distributed processing, helping address human problems. But human brains themselves, we know such less about them. So our fear of AI, maybe we use AI to understand our human brains even better, and then use it for something. So this is just the start of the journey, my friend. It's like a lot of exciting stuff is going to happen. I don't think it's something to be scared about. I'm excited. I every day I read these things and I get even more excited and enthused.
Well, I share the excitement and the passion for all this new discovery and exploration. And I hope people around me are much more fearful to keep me in line.
Which we spoke about, means yes. If the air traffic control had come before the Wright brothers had invented the plane, we would have never started flying. Like, we would have it would have been lost in Congress somewhere saying, "Oh no, humans cannot be allowed to fly." So both things need those checks and balances. Humans have figured it out for generations. We'll do it yet again.
Deepak, thank you so much for dedicating some time to sharing your insight, expertise, and knowledge with all of us.
Hey, Kevin, thanks a lot. I've been following your work for many years, yours and your colleague Frank Diana's, and it was a great pleasure meeting and talking to you in person. Look forward to be part of your show again in the future. Thank you.